Too many founders chase scale without knowing what they're actually scaling because revenue doesn't equal value. Buyers want systems, not chaos. That's why I built the Strategic Growth and Franchise Buyers Blueprint to help you create a business buyers compete for, not discount. Clear goals, documented systems, real valuation strategy. Because if a buyer walked in today, would your business be ready?
Joe Carter is the guy serious operators call when they're ready to grow without chaos. He's the CEO of Twin Flame Group and a partner at the franchise consulting company. He's been featured in Business Insider, CEO Weekly, and U.S. Reporter for his frameworks on value-driven growth and building businesses that run without the founder. Joe believes that hustle gets you started, but systems are what sets you free. Joe Carter, welcome to the show. You have a pretty diverse background, right? From leading multi-unit operations to coaching founders, advising investors in the franchise space. How have each of these chapters shaped your approach to business leadership and strategy?
Thanks, JJ, for the warm welcome. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this podcast for a while. In terms of all those chapters and that story, you're right, it's a pretty diverse background. So just kind of taking you back a little bit, I spent a little over a decade in the corporate world, led teams of over 100,000 people, more than $1 billion in annual revenue for several different organizations. That's where I figured out scaling and what processes actually create business scale. Then I had the opportunity to work in private equity. I did over 400 due diligence deals on businesses that valued over $14 billion and did several of those acquisitions myself. I also built, scaled, and sold multiple businesses, all at triple or more EBITDA industry averages at the time, because I took those concepts of business scaling and what buyers actually look for from the private equity vantage point and was able to create systems around them. So that's ultimately what led me to Twin Flame Group, where I help founders do just that. Figure out where their business is currently leaking and close those gaps through systemization and leadership.
At what point did you realize that franchising and systems-based growth would be your core focus, and what drew you to this world overall?
Great question. So as I mentioned, working in corporate, working in private equity, all those things gave me the background or the foundation to be able to do this, but it really clicked at one moment. Through that entire timeline, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to get introduced and make connections with a ton of different people. And several of them reach out to me. They were calling me, message me, whatever. And there was this one key moment where a founder called me up. He was super excited. He was going on his first vacation in over 3 years. He said, I'm going to Europe. We're going to spend a month there with the family. I'm buying a new BMW motorcycle. I'm going to drive it across the country and everything. I was like, that's awesome. Send me some pictures and stuff. So he sent me pictures. He also sent me these pretty cool GoPro video animation of him driving through the mountains and all that. But that was neat. But the really cool part was when he got back. So when he got back that Monday morning, it was probably about 9:30 his time or something like that. He called me up and he goes, I cannot even freaking believe this. I took a vacation for the first time in 3 years. I get back, it's Monday morning. I didn't even know we sold a $14 million contract while I was gone. That would not have happened 3 years ago. And to get a little bit more personal, I recently took a vacation as well. We were on a cruise ship for 2 consecutive weeks, and we just happened to go through a hurricane. There's no cell phone service. There's no internet. I can't get a hold of my team at all. So by the time I get back, I realized we landed 4 deals while I was gone because I created systems and I provided autonomy for my team to be able to make decisions without me. So cruise ship, Europe trip, doesn't matter where you're at. If systems are in place, your team can scale without you. And that is what drives business value.
So you have helped businesses across several different industries, right, grow and exit successfully. You've also led your own team. What kind of leadership lessons have carried you through, no matter what the sector or the industry that you're in?
Fantastic question. So while it's absolutely true that every industry has got specific things that make them special, it's also true that there are several core concepts that are applicable regardless of industry. You referenced one already, and that's leadership. Leadership is the foundation of growth and scale. Without leadership, your team cannot grow without you. And ultimately, that is what we help leverage. It's not building just you as the founder in the leadership, but the leadership underneath you and having a cadence to be able to develop that consistently so that you don't have to make all the decisions.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody like me to lead my own team, and what are 3 takeaways that I could do to implement right away into my team?
Fantastic question. So the first thing I would do is I'd get out a notebook, make a list. Every single day, add to that list for the next week. What are the things that you actually have to do every single day? The decisions you make, the customers you have to reach out to, the contracts you have to follow up with. At the end of 1 week, go back through that list. Who can I delegate every single item on that list to? Pick one, train them on how to do it, follow up a week later, repeat that process for however long your list may be. So I would start with that, because once you do that, you'll be able to figure out where your business is leaking and how to fix those leaks.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, you talked a lot about systems that scale without the founder. Like, what's one small like operational detail inside of a business that you would tell that tells you whether it's built to last or not? Like, when you look inside of a business, they just came to you. What's the detail that?
So one of the first things that I look at is the onboarding process. How do they bring in talent? Because you can recruit and hire the best talent based on their past experience or their core skill set, whatever it may be. But if you don't set them up for success, their chance of success is very low. And therefore, if they work for you and their success is low, your success is low. So what does that onboarding process look like, and how founder driven is that onboarding? If I have to teach you and every single new hire everything all the time, I'm not repeatable. So I need to be able to create someone else and train the trainer so that they can utilize and leverage that onboarding process to scale faster than if I had to do it all by myself.
So a lot of founders are usually chasing like top line growth, and you focus on like valuation and scalability. What's the mindset shift required to build a company that's actually like worth buying?
So in order to do that, the mindset shift that is required is you have to stop thinking like an owner and start thinking like a buyer. As I mentioned earlier, I've had the privilege of working inside private equity, doing 400, due diligence deals, $14 billion in valuation. I've seen the 427 specific things that private equity evaluates a business on. And I can apply those to any business in any industry, regardless of size, regardless of how long they've been there. And I can tell you, more than likely, there's going to be at least 100 things that you are not doing that is picture perfect, if not more. And of those 100 things, what can be fixed? What's going to cost money in order to fix? How fast can it be fixed? And what valuation leap will be made once it's fixed? So in order to do all of those things, we have to first understand where you're at, and then we can reverse engineer what we need to do in order to drive your valuation. Because at the end of the day, your revenue can be the same today as it is 90 days from now, but your valuation can be triple if you just fix a few processes and leadership cadences.
What would you say are some of the most important things, or just like overall things that like these private equity firms are looking for when they are about to purchase a business?
Definitely, they are looking for scalability and repeatability. So what I mean by scalability is the ability I can copy and paste whatever it is that you're doing in another market and get the same level of success. And repeatability is all about recurring revenue. It's great to have one-off contracts that are $14 million or whatever it is. It's more important to have a $7 million recurring contract, because recurring means predictability, and predictability means value.
One of your signature frameworks is the strategic growth blueprint. Can you walk us through like what it is and how it works?
Definitely. So the strategic growth blueprint is the concepts that I've created that actually is leveraged in my book, Driving Not Surviving. Go check it out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you may be able to find it. But we apply that to a business structure. And it's really 4 key concepts. So first and foremost, set very specific actionable goals. Where do you want to be next month, next year, next decade? Secondly, create actions for key stakeholders to be able to achieve those goals. Third, you have to have measurable milestones. You have to know today if you're on pace to hit your goal next month so that you can pivot if you need to. And finally, accountability. There's got to be a weekly cadence where every one of those key stakeholders shows up into the room, same day, same time. They get 30 seconds to talk. That's it. What did they do last week? Did it or did it not improve their team score? And what are they committing to do this week? That's it, 30 seconds, that's all you get. If that meeting is taking more than 10 minutes to accomplish, you're taking too long, and you're taking yourself away from the rest of the business. And more importantly, you're taking your key stakeholders away from being able to drive the business. So it's about creating that cadence and applying it to your business. And that is the strategic growth.
You talked a lot about like how private equity firms look for recurring revenue and something. For like a business like mine that faces like more higher ticket, faces churn, that sort of thing, like how would you implement like recurring revenue models that would live beyond like myself, for example?
For sure. So it's all about applying a recurring revenue model to any particular structure. I'll give you one example. A landscaping company that we acquired. When we acquired it, it was 72% was one-off tickets, and only 28% was driven off of recurring value. All we did is go to those current current customers that were the one-off tickets and say, here's the value that we provide. Here's the service. Were you or were you not happy with it? Are you excited about the value that we were able to drive based on that ticket? If I gave you a 20% discount to commit to the next year, would you take it? And in doing so, we flipped those numbers around. Exact same revenue, just not one tickets, recurring revenue. And in reality, that revenue actually dipped slightly because we were given a discount to achieve a long-term success. But in doing so, the valuation in roughly 6 months quadrupled.
Crazy.
So it's all simplistic in terms of what are your current customers, how do you acquire those customers, but more importantly, how do you turn those customers into repeat customers that sign with you long-term?
Would you say that's like one of the first steps that you take to help somebody double or triple their valuation?
It definitely is. So we look at their current customer count. What percentage of their revenue is being driven off of recurring versus non-recurring revenue streams, and how do we leverage those things? And then secondarily, what are some additional kind of add-on revenue streams that we can provide to those recurring contracts? So in that landscaping space that I just referenced, vast majority of it is mow and blow. But what else could we provide in a landscape space that could be added on to that recurring contract? If for the 3 months of winter, I also put down ice melt for you and I charge you a couple $100 extra during those 3 particular months, would you be interested in that? Now you not only created a revenue model, you created a revenue growth model that's also recurring.
And you also work a lot in the franchise space, which is all about systems and scalability and just duplicating, replicating. When someone that owns a business is interested in franchising like what's the first thing that you look for, and what makes like any business kind of franchisable or scalable?
So great question. Franchising is absolutely all about systems, and it's also about scale. So the ability to franchise is all about, can your system, can your model be replicated somewhere else by someone else? So the first question I always ask to any any business owner that is interested in turning that business into a franchise is, if I took you away for the next 60 days, what happens? If the answer is nothing, then we can start actually creating the model. If the answer is anything besides nothing, let's fix those things and then begin creating the model, where we create an operations manual, a sales model, a franchise disclosure agreement. We go through all of the things necessary to actually create a franchise, but you have to have proof of concept before you can get to that step. So that's what we help you do, is we help you validate, have proof of concept, and then we can put all the other structures in place for the FTC to be able to approve you as a franchise.
So a lot of people, like when you say franchise, they automatically go to like Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, that sort of thing. Like what would you say in your, like what's your description of franchise, and what kind of businesses could be franchisable?
So yeah, that's a great point. Like when I bring up franchise or franchising to anyone, like automatically their mind tends to go to like food or yogurt or something to that effect. And while that's true, there's a lot of food concepts that are franchised out there, and probably the most consistent, been around the longest. They're actually not the ones that are growing the fastest. Some of those industry sectors that we are seeing today that are fastest in the franchising space are actually home services and or health and wellness. So health and wellness, traditionally people go to gyms. Gyms are true, and there is a pretty high recurring model if you do it right within that, but health and wellness expands so far beyond that. You can get into mental health. You can get into IV therapy. There's several of those types of things. And then switching over to the home services, if you just stand outside of your house and look at it from a franchise perspective, roof to floor, everything that you don't want to take care of, but at some point is going to need a repair or replacement, has the ability to be franchised. So you can franchise a roof repair company, an internal painting company, a window replacement company, a lawn care service, etc. Anything and everything in the home services space is on such a humongous growth sector because of the growth that's occurring in real estate.
Yeah, what would you say like are the first steps that you would take, like for like let's say a general contractor or something that's looking to franchise? Like what would you be able to do for them like immediately, and how would like franchising help their business?
So if they're currently a general contractor, we would look for franchise concepts that actually provide additional value. So not just replacing what they already do, but what is a great add-on or tuck-in that can go with them. So if they're a general contractor that is doing, let's say, inside of a home remodeling, what else could we do that will add in additional recurring revenue streams for them? So could that be pool repair? Could that be fence repair? Could that be something that their skill set can automatically apply and they have the capability to open new revenue streams? That's what franchising does for you. You don't have to create the wheel. The wheel's already created for you. You just got to turn the car on and drive.
And on the other side of things, you also help people, invest in the franchises and stuff. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making that are looking to invest in a franchise?
Fantastic question. The most common mistake that I see when someone is interested in buying a franchise is they get really excited about the hype or the logo. And while that's true, like you do need some brand recognition to be able to have a successful franchise, it is more important to ensure that the processes match what you're looking for. So that's what we help you do. We understand you first, and then we give you franchise concepts that match to you. So what is your budget? What is your lifestyle? What is your skill set? What's your past experience? How involved do you want to be in the day-to-day business? Once we understand those things, I can reverse engineer and give you models that match all those things, and we go through the full due diligence checklist. So we have a proven 12-step framework that we utilize to vet through a minimum of 3 brands that match your criteria, so that ultimately we can find one that is not just going to be another job that you buy, but is going to be a legacy that you create.
Franchising today is obviously very different than it was like 20 years ago, right? What do you think most people misunderstand about the space, or what has changed over the last 20 years?
Great question. So as I mentioned, most people tend to go food concepts when it comes to franchising, but in reality, private equity is actually getting into the franchise space pretty heavily over the last several years because it's so repeatable and so recurring. So the shift that I see is what I referenced a moment ago. Home services is one of the largest and fastest growing franchise concepts out there, and there's so many different ones. That's a large industry with several subsectors underneath it. But finding the right model that is scalable puts you in play. It puts you in the pool that private equity will want to acquire you one day. So your investment today can create a humongous exit tomorrow.
Obviously, tech, AI, that kind of thing has been a hot topic recently. How would you say that that's affecting your space and automating the systems in franchising or things of that nature?
Absolutely. AI is here to stay. And in my opinion, it's up to us to figure out how we play it. So AI is a fantastic tool if you leverage and utilize it right. AI should not replace human interaction. It should not replace the ability for your team to execute on a day-to-day basis. It should only enhance it. And that's what systems do. All of the franchise concepts that we work with at the FCC have been vetted through that to ensure that their tech stack is something that can be applied by anyone, easily trainable, easily executable, and can be done in any particular market or industry. So we do all that vetting for you, and we figure out how you're going to leverage AI for growth versus trying to replace it or fight against it.
There's a lot of discussion or opinions or different sides in the coaching and consulting world, right? How do you, with Twin Flame Group, differentiate yourself in terms of what you actually do for founders?
So how we differentiate ourselves at the Twin Flame Group is kind of what I've mentioned a moment ago, but I have had the opportunity to work in corporate. I've ran and led teams of over 100,000 people, more than $1 billion in annual revenue. I worked in private equity. I understand what buyers look for, what they give you value on, and what they take value on away. I've started, scaled, and exited multiple companies myself by applying those concepts, and I've helped thousands of owners apply those concepts and see results. So there's very few, if anyone. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say there is no one out there that has that level of experience, that has done that in the corporate world with that level of success, that is set on the buyer's side and understands what takes away value and what adds value, and has actually taken those concepts and given them proof through starting, scaling, and exiting multiple companies. So with me, you get a full package. You get somebody who understands how to scale. You get somebody who understands what the buyer's going to look for, and you get somebody who understands and has proven it.
Tell me, obviously you worked with thousands of different companies, but tell me how you specifically started, when you got your hands dirty, what did you build up, and what makes you, qualified to be able to get into franchising and be able to say that you rolled your sleeves up and did it yourself?
So going way back, my very first business was actually a franchise. So I was in that buyer's seat in terms of trying to figure out what franchise concept works for me and vetting through all the different brands. And truthfully, there were several of them that I kind of liked at the beginning, but ultimately selected one because I saw a big growth pattern that was occurring in that industry. And once I did that, I was able to see several concepts that fell into that and pick the one that fit me. In terms of my market, my investment model, and what I was willing to put in terms of time, effort, and energy. So I've walked in those shoes and been able to actually successfully exit that particular one. I built it up so much so that the franchisor came to me and said, we have to buy this from you because we want to make this our corporate model to sell to other people. You've taken our concepts and enhanced them so much. We want them to be our concepts now, and I'm going to pay you 14 times EBITDA to do so. Mm-hmm. And the average exit at that time for that particular franchise was 2.7.
No, that's awesome. Well, there you go. Blessed. What would you say, like, is the most, obviously things are changing like crazy. What's the most exciting thing in your industry that you're looking forward to, like in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, I see private equity and venture capitalism taking over the franchise space. So that is super exciting for someone with my type of knowledge and expertise to understand what they're going to be looking for to buy up those smaller single or even small multi-unit operators that are in the franchise space, buy up a whole bunch of them. And so seeing private equity and understanding that tailwind, what all needs to be occurring for everyone to be able to take full advantage of it, is what is super exciting to me. Private equity specifically will pay humongous premiums and EBITDA multipliers if the systems are proven out and there's a proof of concept evolved. So doing it now prepares you for that 5-year exit.
And like in our day and age, things change all the time, and a lot of founders just aren't prepared for it. One year they could be completely underwater, the next year they could be having the best year of their life. What are some early warning signs you would tell founders to look out for when their business is about to break, or so they know where they're going?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, if you took a vacation for the next 2 weeks, what happens? If the answer is nothing, then you're pretty good. If the answer is anything besides nothing, let's figure out what those things are and let's fix those things. Because the warning signs to breaking is when I myself have to do everything, because I'm only one person. I only have a certain amount of bandwidth. There's only a certain amount of hours in the day. And if I land a really big contract or a bunch of clients tomorrow, am I going to be able to replicate myself to every single one of those clients? And if it's just me doing that, I can't. But if I do that through a team, I absolutely can. So take yourself out of the business for a little bit and see what happens. That would be the early warning sign.
Now, a lot of people, especially small to medium-sized businesses, when they go to scale, they like to scale fast. I've personally learned that the leaner you stay, the greener you stay, right? What's a piece of advice you would give to somebody that might be doing a lot of revenue and they're growing their team and stuff? Should they scale fast, or should they stay as lean as possible? What's your advice to them scaling?
So in my opinion, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that question. Every business and every owner is going to be slightly different in that. But what I would challenge them to do is figure out your revenue per employee. Current state. Is your revenue per employee $150 or $150,000? What is it today? And that will tell you how fast you need to scale. You can also look at that same metric last year or when you first started and be able to compare and contrast. And you can also leverage that every single week, every single month, every single quarterly financial review to tell you, am I growing faster than my head count, or is my head count growing faster than my revenue? You track that consistently, and that'd be the most important metric to you as the business owner, as the founder. It will tell you how fast you can scale and when you need to hire people in order to continue to scale.
That's awesome. So if somebody asked you, I know we talked a lot about your qualifications and stuff, but if somebody asked you why they should choose you specifically, Joe Carter, to help them scale or systemize their business, how would you answer that, both on a professional level and on a personal level?
So yeah, professional level, as I mentioned previously, I've started, scaled, and exited multiple businesses by applying concepts that I learned in the corporate world and in the private equity space. I've leveraged those things myself personally to be able to give myself wealth. I've also leveraged it substantially with clients to be able with wealth. So there's a track record of success. Call any of my clients, they will give you a raving review. But also, in my opinion, the most important thing when you pick a consultant or a coach or whoever it may be, has that person ever actually walked in your shoes before? If they never have, how on earth are you going to follow their advice because they have no proof of concept? I have multiple proofs of concept. I have multiple times that I have sold for more than 3 times more than any other owner out there because I apply the concepts.
Well, it's obviously been great talking to you. You could obviously help people scale and systemize their business. So where should people, I guess, go find you if they wanted to work with you? And like, what's one thing you would want to leave people watching with?
You can find us on our website, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you want. Name a social media channel, we're on there. I would challenge each and every single person to really ask themselves that question. If I disappear tomorrow, what happens to my business? If the answer is nothing, you're awesome. If the answer is not nothing, then let's reach out. I'll apply the 427 things that private equity will evaluate your business on, and I'll tell you the 100 or more that are missing in terms of optimization with your current business. I'll tell you how much it'll cost to fix. I'll tell you how fast you can fix it. And I will tell you exactly what your business multiplier will be once you do fix it. Then it's up to you to decipher which one of those can I fix, how fast do I want to fix, and how fast do I want to fix.
Awesome. It's Joe Carter, Clap it up.
Thanks, JD. I appreciate it.